Welcome to Shadow of Truth with your host, Dave Kranzler from InvestmentResearchDynamics.com and Rory Hall from thedailycoin.org. And today is Monday, June the 27th, 2016. And this is your Brexit and gold market update. Thank you all for being here. What's on your mind today, Dave? We got a lot to talk about. I mean, there's gee willikers. I mean, the Brexit going down, gold and silver going up or getting beat down overnight. It was way up and then it's back down, and Euro markets were beat into submission overnight, but found their legs somehow.
Well, I mean, again, I think in terms of what's going on with the precious metals, well, here's the thing. First of all, I was chatting about this with a good friend of mine earlier, and our conclusion is that, I mean, the markets are so manipulated, and there's so much intervention that goes on all over the world, not just the U.S., but especially in the U.S., that it's really hard to tell what's real and what's not real. And that's to me, that's part of the reason why, you have this question about, what's going on with this Brexit thing? Why isn't Cameron stepping down right away? Is this a conspiracy to actually give the public what they want, yet take away all their wealth from them because now they can crash the markets? And that's entirely possible. I don't know. Like I said, everything is so convoluted and so opaque and just so messed up. You can't really tell what's real and what's not. And I'm sure a lot of that's intentional. So it's hard to say how much of this sell-off in the stock market's even real. Is the Fed letting it happen, or have they lost their ability to prop it up? I don't know. I mean, I said in the Short Sellers Journal issue that I released Sunday, I said outright, I have no idea what the stock market's going to do next week because I don't know to what extent the central banks are going to step in and try and prop them up. And I don't know to what extent they may or may not have lost the ability to keep them propped up. Last week, everyone, there was pandemonium on Friday and everyone's freaking out because the S&P was down 50, 60 points. Well, guess what? It still stayed well above 2,000. In mid-February, when it was at the bottom of that sell-off that started at the beginning of January, it touched down at 1831. And it may seem hard to believe, but the world economy, and especially the U.S. economy, is in a lot worse shape now than it was in mid-February. So how the hell is the S&P 200 points above where it was when it sold off in January, in early February,
Yeah.
So just to kind of circle back to, the sell-off that we're seeing this morning in the metals, I think, first of all, on Friday, there had to have, because the markets were down so much and it took a lot of people off guard, I think had to be hedge funds that blew up. And there might even be some non-hedge fund institutional funds that blew up, maybe some pension funds, I don't know. So there's things that blew up that we're not hearing about.
Right.
And so behind the scenes, they may be working to try and monetize those and liquefy those. I don't know. But there's definitely hedge funds that had to have blown up on Friday. So what you may be seeing here is large-scale liquidation of everything by the hedge funds so that they can maintain solvency and not get margin calls, et cetera. So, gold, you would think that gold should be a lot higher, but if the hedge funds are in there selling everything that's not nailed down, including any precious metals exposure, then everything's going to go down, right?
Right.
To be honest with you, when I looked at I kind of watched the open last night of the markets.
Yeah.
And gold was up, I don't know, 17, 18 bucks when I first logged on. It might have been up a little bit higher at the open. I don't know. And when I went to bed, gold was still up $15, $16. Yep. When I woke up, gold was still up $15, $16. And I was actually surprised by that because I thought they were going to hammer it down overnight. And they didn't.
Yeah, but it had worked its way all the way down to approximately 10 somewhere around 5 or 6 a.m. Central Time this morning. And now it's down. It was, last time I checked, it was around $8 or something somewhere $7,
Right. And
$8.
again, like I said, I mean, you've got hedge funds that have a very big paper exposure to gold. Gold's up $7 right now.
Okay.
You got hedge funds that have a large paper exposure to the sector, and if they're worried about getting margin calls, they're selling everything, and they're selling everything that might have a bid to it. And I'm sure gold has a good bid out there.
I would
So
think.
that's going to, the fact that gold's still green to me is a positive.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Because you got the S&P's down 2% now. It's down over 40 points. It's below 2,000. So, you can just hear the margin calls getting issued to these hedge funds.
And when that and as that happens, don't they sell more? I mean, shouldn't it
That's
be dropping?
the thing. They got to sell more, and that's why I'm saying, just if it's not, to me, it's not the manipulators. It's helping the manipulators do their job to keep a cap on gold. The fact that hedge funds have to sell, and to avoid margin calls and large investors, but that doesn't mean they're necessarily in there and they're only focused on keeping a lid on the price of gold. They may be focused on preventing the collateral damage of hedge funds blowing up. Who knows? That's we have no idea what's going on behind the scenes, and we're not even going to read about it on Zero Hedge. Zero Hedge might sniff out the news of some hedge fund blowing up, and we may hear about it later, but we're definitely not going to hear about it on the mainstream financial media.
Oh no, Lord, no. I just find it very curious, or not curious, but encouraging that all of these countries, all of these nation states of Europe have stepped up and said, we want out also. We want out. We want out. And I think that they're just going to continually, I don't think that there's any way that they can stop it at this point as far as the European Union collapsing and the impact that that's going to have on markets. That's going to open up the door to all kinds of possibilities, both good and bad. And I mean, I would think that just that news alone would be extremely gold positive and very, very bullish for gold for the next few months. I mean, or is that not right? I mean, it seems like that, if you've got Sweden and France and Italy already and several other nation states stepping up and saying, we're done with this. We're bringing a referendum to the table. What currency are they going to use, or how are they going to store their wealth, in the interim?
Well, that's the whole thing, and I agree with you. I think it's encouraging that some of these other countries are, at least they're saying, they're lining up, getting their own referendums on the docket, and whether or not that actually happens remains to be seen, in my view. But to me, what I just find so stunning, and apparently Joe Biden was on the political stump over the weekend, just hammering the Brits for voting, yes to Brexit. And I find it interesting that, and especially a lot of the Democrats in the Democratic Party, the Hillary Clintons of the world, they're so anti-Brexit because they believe that government should take care of people. They don't believe in self-determination. And to me, what the real vote was in Brexit was the British population saying, hey, we're tired of answering to a higher authority in Brussels that we didn't even elect, and they're determining our fate, and we don't want that.
And
right?
Right. That's exactly it.
Right. I mean,
unelected bureaucrats that know nothing about what's going on the ground in any of those countries.
That's right. And it reminds me of I lived in D.C. for a while in 2004, and on the license plate, I don't know if it's still there. The New World Orders may have removed it, but on the license plate it says taxation without representation. Because people who live in D.C. get taxed, they pay federal taxes, but they don't have a seat in Congress because it's not an official state.
It's its own entity.
It's its own entity, right?
It doesn't answer to the Constitution,
right? But yet they still have to pay taxes. So it's, to me, it reminds me of, the Euro structure, where all these countries are members and their people are beholden to the EU organizational body, but they don't elect those representatives. And when you look at to me, what the Club Med European countries, their problem is that they've got all this debt and they can't print their own currency to monetize it. To me, that's the biggest problem there, because they're beholden to the ECB to tell them how to restructure, or if they're going to allow them to restructure. I mean, I don't know if the southern, the Club Med European countries, Italy, Spain, France, etc. I don't know if they want out so they can start printing their own currency and monetize their debts, or if they want out because for the same reasons the Brits wanted out. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I don't know if it's so much self-determination as it is self-preservation, because then they can once they leave the EU, they go back to their respective historical currencies and print the crap out of them and pay off their debts with printed money. And that's got to horrify the elitists. If you're a big bank and you have exposure to sovereign debt, which you probably do, either via derivatives or outright,
yep.
The idea of getting paid back in printed lira has got to be horrifying. Right?
I love it.
Yeah, no, I love it too, because they're the ones who enabled it.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Oh, we can only hope that cow comes home. Man, oh man,
I would love to
please,
see it, man. I'd love to see it.
please.
I mean, what it irritates me the most, and you're going to get the populace in this country, they're gonna gobble up the mainstream media garbage, and they're gonna applaud Joe Biden's speech, and they don't even know why
Exactly.
Brexit happened, and they don't know why they're applauding Joe Biden's speech,
Because
but
they're
Joe
told to.
Biden's speech is all about hey, we know the government knows better what's good for you than you know what's good for you. It's like anti-self-determination. For me, the Brexit vote represented a drive by the British population for self-determination.
Well, what is interesting is that the Brits stood up and said, "We want our freedom and our sovereignty back." And you have people like Joe Biden, like Hillary Clinton, like all the other scumbag elitists that are in this country that fought the British for what? For our freedom and our sovereignty. And now these scumbags are standing up and saying, well, they need to just get in line. They need to toe the line. And what are they thinking? Who do they think they are wanting their freedom and sovereignty? I mean, that's what they're saying. That is basically what they're saying, is that these people are ignorant and have to be led around with a loop through their nose in order to be able to function during their day. And the people of Britain said, no, we don't. We're fine. We're good. We're good without you. And and there was not the thing I like is there wasn't a single a shot fired so far, not yet, not
Right.
one.
Well, and then, this is the other issue there, and that's part of the reason why the Hillary Clintons and the Bidens are anti-Brexit, and that's because it has the potential to undermine NATO.
Absolutely.
And there was the subscriber of mine who lives in England who was sending me updates on what was going on, and I think it was his sister's boyfriend is in the military and was over for dinner, the night before the Brexit, and he was telling the guy who wrote me the email, he said 90% of the people in the military, the rank and file in the military, are going to vote for the Brexit because they think that part of the charge of the EU is that they're basically fighting Washington's wars, which is essentially what NATO is. It's a tool for DC for the Defense Department to wage its wars on the rest of the world, and they're sick of it. So that's the other reason why Hillary Clinton's a complete neocon, and that's the biggest. Aside from the fact that that her supporters are looking the other way on all the crimes she's committing,
right?
They don't understand the fact that she's as militant as any right winger in this country, if not more militant.
Yep. A friend of mine told me yesterday, he asked me what I thought about Trump, and I said, well, jury's still out on that right now. Still trying to figure it out. He said, well, I can't vote for him, and I'm going to have to vote for Hillary. I'm not going to vote for Hillary because she's a woman, but who else is qualified? And I said, she is far from qualified. She is a criminal. She should be in prison right now. Period. I said she has committed acts of treason. I said, you do know that she gave the order to stand down that killed Ambassador Stevens in Benghazi, right? I said, you know that. He's like, no, I didn't know that. I said, exactly. I said, otherwise you wouldn't have said what you just said. I said, if you knew that, you would run from her and you would demand that she go back in front of Congress and demand that those emails that were on her treasonous personal email server in her home, acting as Secretary of State, everything would be public, period, and that would prove that she is a treasonous criminal, period. I mean, but that's what we're dealing with, and that's what you were just saying, Dave. I mean, it blows my mind how these people can be so ill-informed, but yet making these monumental decisions.
What blows my mind is people don't like either choice, but they still feel like they have to vote. I haven't felt compelled to vote since 1992. And the only reason I voted then was to help Giuliani beat Dinkins, because Dinkins was probably the worst mayor ever in New York City. I didn't even vote for either presidential candidate, Clinton or Bush Sr. I wrote someone in. I don't even remember who I wrote in, or I might have checked off the independent candidate. I honestly don't remember. I didn't vote for either of them. If you don't like either choice, don't vote. I would love to see what would happen if on election day no one showed up to vote. Then what would happen?
I think it's like 40% of the voters have to vote in order for it to qualify.
Right. You know, why vote? Voting doesn't help change the system. The only way we're going to change the system is if we bring down the system. And voting, if you vote, you're not helping bring down the system, and you're helping perpetuate the abortion that we've got.
Well, I think these different organizations around the country that are putting in place secession legislation, I think they're on the right track, in all honesty. And
and I just don't ever see that happening. I mean, Texas has been threatening to secede since the beginning, since its foundation as a state.
Yeah, since the Republic of Texas was founded.
Right. And yet they're still part of the United States.
Still paying taxes. Still,
I just
answering.
I don't know. We'll see, but
well, I mean, you got to have something to look for. There's got to be. Otherwise there's nothing to work towards. I mean, may as well just drink the day away. I mean, seriously. Yeah, I mean, what's the difference? If there's no reason to move your life forward or to believe that something is going to change at some point, then what's the point of
Rory? That's why every once in a while I'll end up one of my blog posts with, "Look, there's nothing you can do about this. Just have as much fun for as long as you can while you still can." Because anything else is, worrying about this or, thinking that you're making a difference by voting is just a waste of time.
Oh.
Because the way this is going to unfold is out of everyone's hands. And I've always said, and I'm not the person who's in a position or capable of doing this, but if a real revolution ever gets organized, I'm in with both hands and both feet. I'm in. But until then, there's just nothing I can do about what's going on.
I think that it's time for people to stand up. I would agree with that wholeheartedly. And something's got to give. Something has to give. And on that happy note, Dave, is there anything else we should cover?
Well, I think we kind of covered the
globe.
topics that are front and center right now.
Yeah.
We make something up.
Oh, my goodness. Well, I think we're good to go, and certainly appreciate everybody being here. And Dave, I guess we'll pick it up on Thursday and see how the Band-Aids, rubber bands, and chewing gum are holding everything together.
Look forward to it.
All right, buddy. Have a good one.
Thanks. You too.